What is going on, guys? This is Nick with Teach All Tech Tuesdays, and today we are doing our podcast over everything Facebook, just talking about the Zuckerberg testimony, talking a little bit about the implications of it, what they were really trying to do when they're interviewing him and deposing him. You're going to talk a little bit about the supposed interference from Russia in the 2016 election. We're going to talk about the Cambridge Analytica data leak, and we're going to talk about why it's a lot easier to blame technology instead of looking at ourselves and figuring out what the problem really is. So first, I'm just going to go ahead and tell you guys, I do have pretty bad allergies, so if it sounds like I'm sick, it's because I am. I'm going to do my best to clean up the audio, but just a heads up, I'm going to sound like this the whole time. So I apologize about that in advance. So let's dive into it. The Facebook testimony is happening because of the Cambridge Analytica data leak primarily. So if you haven't heard about this, basically the Cambridge Analytica, which is a data mining firm, they bought user data from Facebook, millions of dollars worth of data for millions of people's information. And Cambridge Analytica it's linked to Steve Bannon, who is linked to Donald Trump. So the whole problem here sort of is that people are claiming that this data was used illegally, or it was used improperly, it violated Facebook's terms, and it helped Trump win the election. And the other sort of side of this is that Russia interfered with the election by running ads that were anti-Hillary, pro-Donald Trump on Facebook. But first, I do just want to sort of clear up one thing. This whole argument that Russia caused Donald Trump to win by running ads on Facebook, it's kind of it's just sort of a silly, naive notion. If you understand anything about Facebook, you'll know that Facebook doesn't make you click an ad. It doesn't make you join a group. It doesn't make you read anything. So if an ad comes across your timeline and you click it, who are you going to blame? Are you going to blame Facebook, or are you going to blame yourself for clicking the ad? It was totally voluntary. It really doesn't matter even if it's right up your alley, it's a deal, whatever it is. If you clicked the ad, you have to understand you are at fault here for doing that and taking that action. Nobody made you do that. Just like how nobody made you sign up for Facebook, and you can say, oh, well, I had to get on Facebook to stay connected, to stay in the loop, blah, blah. Whatever your excuse is, it is just that, an excuse. Nobody made you sign up. Nobody made you click the link. So you have to take responsibility for your actions. Otherwise, were you just going to blame something else every single time something goes wrong? I mean, where do you draw the line between taking responsibility and owning up to what you've done, or just continuing to point fingers and play the victim card? Because if that's the sort of mindset you have, then how are you ever going to improve or get anything done if you think you never make a mistake and you never own up to it? So just needed to get that out of the way real quick. And the other thing, so let's talk a little bit about that, about Russia interfering. So supposedly Putin and Trump are buddies, is what the claims are, that there was contact between them during the campaign 2016, that someone in Trump's camp was talking to a Russian diplomat, all this. So something sort of interesting most people probably don't know is when Obama was president and Putin was reelected for his third term, even though a lot of people claim that the Russian elections are fraudulent, that they're not really elections, that the whole thing is corrupt, whether you believe that or not, set your notions aside for a minute. So when Putin was, quote unquote, reelected for the third time, other countries sent prominent political figures to sort of congratulate him and to celebrate that he won again. For example, like China would send a high-ranking diplomat. They might send a premier. Countries with prime ministers would send them. It's just if there was a very high-ranking political official, they would send them. However, Hillary Clinton, as Secretary of State under Obama, sent a junior intern to celebrate with Putin. And you don't really have to be a political whiz to understand that's a huge slap in the face. If other countries are in some cases sending their highest ranking political officer, and you're sending literally an intern, someone who just started out, they have no political weight behind them, they can't get anything done for you, that's just a huge disrespect and embarrassment to Putin straight from Hillary. So you have to understand, Putin wasn't necessarily buddy-buddy with Trump, but he really just didn't like Hillary because of this. Now, you might think that's kind of petty for him to, be so offended over this, but you also have to think these people are politicians. So, signs of respect and just, sort of returning the favor of showing appreciation for an elected official, that kind of stuff matters to them a lot more than it would matter to you or I. So when they choose to send someone who's basically the lowest ranking person, like literally this intern's job was probably to get bagels for a politician, like they didn't have any sort of prestige at all, and other countries are sending their top leader, you just have to understand that really is a huge mark of disrespect. So can you blame Putin for not liking Hillary after that? Not necessarily. I don't really blame him. I mean, I get it. I'm not condoning what he did, but at the same time, I don't blame him for doing that because that was just a huge slap in the face from her. So just to continue the dialogue here a little bit. So this is sort of the main focus of the Facebook testimony was the Russian meddling and the Cambridge Analytica data leak. So something I kind of want to talk about is the cost of using something free. So, and I'm saying free in air quotes right now because if you've taken literally any economics course at any level of education, you'll understand the Tinstoffel principle. There is no such thing as a free lunch. And what that means is even when something might seem free, I promise there is a cost. It really doesn't matter what it is. We can use the example of Facebook. So as most people now know, the cost of using Facebook is that you are giving up your information. You are allowing Facebook to use it in certain ways. You're allowing them to share it with third parties, and you're allowing them to serve you ads. So again, you don't have to click the ad. You don't have to give them all of your information. You can actually limit a ton of it. And I talked about this in the video last week about how to limit the information you share with Facebook and to prevent it from sharing it with third parties. So if you're interested, I'll go ahead and put the link for that in the description. And sort of continuing on this principle here, so there is no such thing as a free lunch, which means Facebook, not really free. If you use email, like doesn't matter really who, Yahoo, Gmail, even if you've got Bell South, it doesn't matter. You are not actually getting it for free. The way it worked previously was when you got a internet connection, you'd get an email at that internet provider. So if you had AT&T, you could be Nick Roth at att.net, or Nick Roth at Windstream. If you're unfortunate enough to have used Windstream, you'll understand that joke. But you had to pay for it. And even the free email providers like Yahoo and Gmail, they are serving you ads, and they are collecting information on what you're emailing about, who you're emailing. There really is, you're not getting anything for free in this life, I promise you. So the same thing, of course, is true for Facebook. And people like to get mad after the fact and say, oh, I didn't know I was sharing this information, or this is invasive, and they like to talk about how they can't fully delete their account and that kind of thing. But guys, you signed up for the service. You agreed to the terms. You literally explicitly gave Facebook permission to collect your data, to use it in any of the ways that they laid out in the terms, and to sell it to other people. And that is how you get to use Facebook for free. So you can't be mad. Like, it's not cheap to run the largest social network in the world. Do you understand the cost of servers? Do you understand the cost of staff, of developers, the cost of innovation? Imagine if Facebook never improved. If it was just the original way it launched in 2006, 2007, whatever it was. Imagine if it never improved, okay? All of those things cost money. So of course they have to earn money somehow. And I thought it was probably the funniest thing. One of the questions during the Zuckerberg testimony, a senator asked him, how do you run a website without charging people to use it? How is that a sustainable business model? And if you watch the video, Zuck laughs a little bit and says, Senator, we run ads. Because it is so obvious to anybody who understands how internet services work that most of the time they make money off of advertisements. Of course, there are certain places where you can pay for a premium package. Like let's say if you need more storage in Gmail, you need more storage on Google Drive. If you have an app and you don't want to see ads anymore, then sometimes you can pay a one-time fee or you can pay a subscription monthly. But you guys have understood how this works ever since the App Store came out. There's the light version of something, which is supported by ads, the way that the developer or the content producer can actually make some money and continue to develop and produce content for you. Or you can sometimes pay, and it's a one-time fee, and then you don't have to see ads anymore. So this isn't a new concept. It's been around since smartphones came out. And if you have, if you use YouTube Red, what is it? You're paying monthly so you don't have to see ads. Yes, you do get other features for it, but the main thing is you don't have to see ads. So this is nothing new. This idea of being supported by ads has been around for quite a while. I mean, how do you think that TV stations stay in business nowadays? Because pretty much nobody is watching TV compared to what it used to be. There are so many less people who are paying for cable packages, who have, NFL Sunday Ticket, who they're paying for HBO. Most of the time people are just paying for the streaming service only. So they have HBO Go, they have Netflix, they're paying for Hulu Plus. I mean, you just got to think about it. There's so many less people watching TV now. How are they still in business? It's because of advertisements. It's because people are willing to pay ridiculous amounts of money for ads on TV because they think that there's going to be so many people watching it, when in reality, what do you do when an ad comes on TV? When you see a commercial, what is the first thing you do? If you don't get up and go get some food or go to the bathroom before the program returns, then you're pulling out your phone. It doesn't matter what age you are. It doesn't matter what you're watching, who you are. You're going to do one of those things. You're either going to walk away from the TV to get something done, or you're going to pull out your phone and maybe start talking to your friends. So ads on TV really aren't even effective anymore, but it's just the same principle. There's really nothing new here. So I just had to get that out, just because sometimes I just get a little upset thinking about when people want something for free. They have crazy expectations. They expect something for nothing, basically, and nothing in this life works like that. It doesn't matter. Again, we could be talking about a public park where people think, oh, it's free to go to the park. No, it's not. You paid for it with tax dollars, and if you didn't, your grandparents paid for it with tax dollars. Tax dollars are what maintain it. Tax dollars are what pay the staff to work there. Nothing is free. Okay, just had to get that out. So I promise I won't keep ranting about that. But something sort of funny. So I thought this might have been the most ironic thing, that senators were aggressively interviewing Zuckerberg about privacy when we have this little thing called the Patriot Act, and it's a small agency called the NSA who sweeps up collection of all of your communication information in bulk, and they retain it for years. So it's just hilarious to me that senators have the audacity to accuse Facebook of eroding people's privacy when that's already happened in scale from the Patriot Act. And again, this is nothing new. It's not like this is new information. People didn't know that their communications are being monitored and collected, stored in a database for someone to read through later on to see if you're a terrorist or not. So this is just so funny, the irony of the people who enacted this Patriot Act telling Facebook that they're worried about eroding people's privacy when it's already gone, okay? If any of you know me, you'll know I am that guy who has a sticker over the webcam on his laptop because I understand that is being used against me. I'm not on video. I'm not like Skyping anybody. So there's no use for me to have that webcam, but it can be used against me. And if you know me a little bit better, then you'll know I have used this thing called a VPN, a virtual private network, for years. Literally, as soon as I got to college and I knew I was going to be connecting to a public network that was run by the university, which means it was monitored and anything I did on there could be watched and collected, I used a virtual private network because it encrypts your information and it makes it much harder to see what you're doing and to track the websites that you're going to. And people might hear that and they think, oh, you must have something to hide then if you're trying to hide your tracks and you don't want people seeing what you're doing. That's really not even the case. Just think about this Facebook thing. If you had a way of limiting your privacy, would you take it? Yes. Okay. So why don't you do that with your internet usage in general? I'm not trying to let an ISP or a university or anybody else, any sort of admins, I'm not trying to let somebody else see my activity and potentially use it against me, because there's literally no benefit to me not keeping that private. So it does cost a little bit of money. I think it's $40 a year, but $40 a year to have your privacy back, to be anonymous online, to make sure nobody's seeing what you're doing, and to prevent any of your information from being hacked, it's totally worth it. There's really not even a question of it. And just for the record, I'm not going to tell you guys which VPN I use, but you want to use one that does not log information, because once again, there is this idea that there's such a thing as a free VPN. But just like we talked about earlier, what is the cost of using something free? They are logging your information and selling it. So again, it's worth it to pay the money. If you use something free, understand there is a cost. And I saw this put pretty plainly. If something you're using is free, if the product you're using is free, then you are the product, okay? They are using your information. They might be using it for ads. They might be using it just to collect in bulk and then sell later on. But however they're doing it, they are getting something from you. So you have to understand that. Okay, so and then just to touch on one more thing. So if this is sort of waking you up and you're understanding that your privacy has been eroded for quite some time and you're trying to take it back, a couple steps you can take. So the first one, I talked about this last week in the privacy video about how to take your privacy back from Facebook, but go to your settings. And don't go to your privacy settings, because that's kind of misleading. All that's referring to is your privacy from other people on Facebook. But if you want to take your privacy back from Facebook itself, you need to go to the apps and you need to go to the ads section of the settings in Facebook. And what you can do from there is you can limit and turn off third-party access to your data, which means that Facebook will not be able to sell your stuff to advertisers. You can turn off using tracking through cookies when, let's say you're on Facebook and you open up a tab and you want to start listening to some music, or you want to start shopping on eBay, or let's say you have really bad allergies like me and you want to Google what's the best medicine that's going to fix it. If you don't want that kind of stuff to be recorded and used against you serving ads, then you can turn that off in the settings under ads and under apps. And again, you can't get mad at Facebook for doing this by default, because how are they going to make money and provide you with a service that you use so often and in so many ways? They have to make money, and this is sort of the easiest way for them to do it, and it's the least amount of friction, because most people didn't even know this was happening. So again, they didn't read the terms, they didn't go through their settings, they didn't understand that this is how Facebook was making money off of them. But I'm telling you, so you can go ahead and going forward, they won't be tracking this stuff. So you have to check out those settings if you're interested. And if you're using a modern web browser like Google Chrome or Mozilla Firefox, basically anything besides Internet Explorer or Opera or Edge, if you're using one of those, let me just go ahead and make your life a whole lot better. Go to google.com/Chrome and download. And just tell me if you think it's better than Internet Explorer. But that's a side note. So if you are using one of these modern browsers, go to the settings for it and make sure that the do not track feature is enabled. And this is sort of it's more broad measure to prevent advertisers and different websites from tracking you. So again, just think about any free website you use. Like let's say if you go to if you're going to Fox News or you're going to CNN, how do you think they can give you how do you think they can give you articles for free that cost them money to produce on a website that costs them money to maintain and operate? They're serving you ads, of course. So what does that mean? That means they are tracking your usage when you're on their website, and in some cases, they can even track you after you've left their website. So you want to, at minimum, turn on this do not track feature. And after that, if you want to really be a boss about it, there's 2 extensions that I recommend. Again, I'm a Chrome user, so if you're using Mozilla, you might have to find another extension, or Safari, you're going to have to find another extension that'll do something similar. But the first one is called Ad Block, and it does exactly what it sounds like. It prevents you from seeing ads in the first place, but not only that, it prevents connections from being made to advertisers and to ad networks. So that means if you are on a website that uses this kind of information against you, you can really limit it, and you can make it so you aren't even seeing the ads. And that's one of the best ways to make your internet browsing experience even better, because pages load faster and they're not cluttered with a bunch of junk. And the second one, it's something called Ghostery. And what Ghostery does is, as soon as you load a web page, it scans it if there's any sort of trackers on there. So if there's something that monitors your movements on the website, such as how long you stay on there, where do you move the mouse around, how do you scroll, what do you click? Of course, that kind of stuff can be tracked, and it is on most websites. So you want to prevent this using something like Ghostery. And I use both of them, and I use a couple other ones, like one, it's called, I think, Secure Everywhere, and it forces a secure connection to a website if it's available. So your information can't be leaked, and your privacy can't be compromised as easily. So I would recommend using at least Ghostery and Ad Block on your web browser, and you're going to notice not only the faster web pages loading, but everything just looks so much better without ads. That's the internet. Ads are kind of, they're helping the internet by making certain services free, but they are also ruining the internet, because nobody likes ads. And until we sort of get over this monetization strategy of using ads, they're not going anywhere. So you want to do your best to sort of limit them. But so that's really it for this week. I just wanted to sort of talk about that, the cost of using something free, how people like to blame technology instead of looking inward and understanding what the consequences of their actions, and just sort of give you my 2 cents on the whole Facebook Russia thing, and then the whole Facebook Cambridge Analytica thing. So it's going to be interesting to see how this continues developing. Another interesting quote was, one of the senators or congressmen asked Zuckerberg if he thinks Facebook should be regulated, and he said he's not sure, which I mean, this guy's a tactician. That was a very smart answer, because of course if he would have said yes, next week we're going to have a bill that is sort of forcing Facebook into this box, and it would be limiting the ways that they can make money, which means that it's going to limit the ways that Facebook can get better for you as a user. Or if he would have said no, probably the same thing would have happened, because of course there's going to be some senators and some politicians who are saying, this guy doesn't think he should be regulated. Well, let's see what we can do about that. So if you haven't watched him, I'm sure there's videos of him on YouTube, the full thing. It's pretty funny too, just sort of watching Zuckerberg navigate, explaining, as one of the videos put it, explaining the internet to older people who didn't grow up with it. So it's not just funny, but it's also really good just to watch and sort of see these pointed questions in the way that these senators are approaching Facebook, and trying to sort of trick him into saying something that's going to allow them to regulate him. So it's really interesting. But again, that's all we got for this week, guys. Thank you for tuning in, and let me know what you think about the lengths. If you like 30 minutes long, if you like an hour long, if you just want short 15-minute guys, let me know, because I'm kind of doing them all over the place to see what sticks and what people like the most. So give me some feedback. But I hope y'all have a great day. Earth Day's coming up, so have a great 420 and go outside and enjoy the sun. This is Nick with Teach All Tech, logging off.